I have the best slot after lunch. Let's all sleep together. And I'll do my best to put you to sleep. Let's see. So I'll be talking about PCE. This is kind of close to my heart as well. I am, in fact, a PC working group chair at IETF as well. I started working with a draft a few years back. Over the time, I became a working group secretary, and now recently, I became a co-chair of the PC working group as well. So PCE has been there for a while, and I will talk to you about the journey of this particular component and a PCEP as a protocol, and how it has evolved over time, and what is the new set of things that are happening in this working group. So who am I? I'm the lead architect at Huawei Technologies, working on the network business line. I have around 15 plus years of experience, and my focus there, at least at the standard size, has been on the traffic engineering, segment routing, PCE, etc. We mentioned about IIE-SOC. So along with IIREF, we have another organization called IIE-SOC, where we have been working towards bringing the gap between IETF and India. And earlier we had worked with CDAC. There have been a couple of speakers. Balaji spoke, and other people have spoken at the connection. So we would like to have more interactions with IIREF and IIE-SOC. We have the same mission. It's just that there are two sister organizations focusing on different aspects. So our focus may be more towards industry focusing. So getting people from all our vendor organizations, etc. That how can we increase, because we know that there is every major internet provider, network equipment maker is in Bangalore or in India, but somehow the participation from the Indian side has been less. So how we can increase that? That has been one of the areas that we have been working on. So some of the activities we do, connections, which is a pre-IETF, Asian IETF activities. So we have done it twice, and the third also, since we are planning sometime in November. So which is like a 2-day event that we do. Apart from that, we do monthly meetups, which we call RFCs We Love, where people come and talk about RFCs or drafts that they have been working on. It's kind of open forum. It's just a meetup. You can talk about implementation experience. You can talk about something that you have written or something that you have read and you liked it, and you would like to share why you liked it. So it's kind of very open, this thing. So if you guys are hearing it for the first time, talk to Balaji. Balaji can provide you information on how to keep in touch, etc. So that you will keep learning about these things as well. We have a mailing list, WhatsApp group, LinkedIn. So just whichever is your favorite way to keep in touch, just do that. Okay. So in this talk, some background. Our focus is on traffic engineering networks, which is what we call as PE. That is, it is not just about reachability. My aim is not just to make sure from point A to point B I can reach, but I can reach with a particular traffic engineer characteristics. And those characteristics could be make sure that the delay that never crosses this particular value. It can't be just best effort. I need you to make sure that these characteristics, this quality of service is always provided when you connect those two endpoints. That's where traffic engineering comes in. And because of the idea of path computation, PCE is because of this traffic engineering concept. That because you have different constraints and you have different properties, you need to compute different paths. Earlier, when we think of only reachability, then when you think of protocols like OSPF and ISI, their aim is, I just need to make sure that every node in the network somehow connects with each other, there is a reachability, and I'll make sure that you will try to reach you in the best path possible at this moment of time. But I'm not going to guarantee you anything. If something changes, I will recompute, find a new path. That's it. But I cannot give you specialized service. Like for instance, my voice needs little bit different requirements. Like when you are sending VoIP traffic, you want to worry about delay variations, you want to worry about delay. When you are just doing browsing, you are just fine with this thing. So based on different applications that I'm running, I might have different requirements to reach between the two endpoints. That's where the traffic engineering comes in. And concept of SDN, I think this been quite popular. There are two definitions which are popular. One definition which is simply says that let's break the control plane and the forwarding plane and centralize the forwarding plane at a controller and make your device kind of dumb, which only do forwarding. That's one definition. It is It is kind of popular definition because that's where the concept of SDN started and OpenFlow picked up. But within the IETF context, we don't like the definition because we feel it's more like a way of running your network where you have a logically centralized controller which controls and manages multiple devices, where these devices don't have to be dumb to do that, right? You still have somebody who is centrally, who has a better view of the network than the limited view that a device would have. And based on the intelligent information that he have of a bigger view of the network, he can make some intelligent decisions and pass it on to the device. But device can still do a lot of things, like for instance, how to do failover. We don't want to take that information away and not ask him to do some switchover when there is a problem, or even detect there is a link down. For a controller to detect takes a lot more time. A device can do that much faster. So we want to keep our device smart, not maybe as smart as before, but not as dumb, somewhere in kind of in between. Some of the things we want to remove from a device. We don't want them to do, for instance, the path computation logic. We want to move that to a controller, but still keep your device not dumb. They still are intelligent. So that's the concept we are coming. And from the SDN point of view, the PCE, I'll talk about it. It's actually much older. It is much older than when the SDN concept come in. So this protocol has been there a while. People were doing traffic engineering. People were doing this, but the concept of SDN exactly was not there. And when SDN came, the PCE working group said, oh, by the way, we are just like any other protocol where a central controller plays a role and it controls virtual device. So let's make sure that we can place PCE as a key component of your SDN controller. It's just a part of it. It's not the full-fledged controller. It's not taking care of configuration management. It's not taking care of OEM. Only the part where it plays a key role is the path computation part. To determine what is the right path to set up, when to re-optimize, when to change, how to make sure that I optimize multiple paths together rather than just look at one thing at a time, which is what we usually do. Right? Stop me in between if you have any questions. Okay. So the definition. The definition is PC is an entity. It doesn't say it's a controller. It simply says it's an entity. So that's the definition. Where this entity could be just a component, application, or a node in your network itself. It could be anybody. It could be just one router who's acting as a PCE. So from the terminology perspective, it's just an entity, right? When SDN came in, we said, oh, this entity better fits into a central controller, which you already are facing, or you can put it in your NMS, you can put wherever you want. So that's it. That's just an entity, which is capable of computing network paths or routes based on a graph, which is nothing but your traffic engineering database, and applying computational constraints. So based on different requirements, it should be able to compute multiple paths. That's the basic definition. That's where we started from. This doesn't meet the requirement of SDN, as you can see. This is simply say, I can compute a path, right? Then this definition has evolved into multiple things that I will talk to you about, that how this building block that already exists in some of the networks can be easily utilized also to meet SDN advantages. So within the PCEP protocol, basically what you have is, when you ask for path computation, what are you going to worry about? You're going to worry about what are my source, what is my destination, right? And then you will have what are the constraints. Oh, make sure don't go to a highway, don't go to a toll, or instead of worrying about distance, worry about time. Sometimes you can ask Google Map to give me the least distance path. You can also say, oh, by the way, whether I'm driving a car or I'm cycling paths. So these are all constraints. You are giving your separate requirements. You're not just looking at best paths, right, on one constraint. You are looking at multiple options. And then this is basically nothing but your database. The database is how many roads I have, what are they connected to each other, what is the distance between this junction to that junction, everything, where it is one way, where it is two-way traffic is allowed. That's nothing but your database. So this is your network graph in the network terminology or traffic engineering database. Graph is just connectivity. A connects to B. This one, A connects to B with multiple properties of the link AB. That what is my bandwidth, what is this? So here, as you can think of multiple things, like whether cycle is allowed, whether this is a highway, whether is this. These are all properties of your link. And then the result that the graph computes is nothing but your path. So this is what the output that we expect from our entity. So PCE is basically a person. If you give him endpoints, constraints, based on the information that he already has, which is this map, he will be able to give you the path. That's all. So earlier, why PCE came into play was, earlier this thing was done on the device itself. So the head node, like think of it as like the router A, he has to calculate this function. And that's where the problem was, that it was very difficult for a node, every node in my topology, to have the power to do this computation. When we offloaded this to a PCE, a specialized entity who needs to take care of this, things get simplified. And that's where the reason that the PCF protocol and PCE came into picture. So what are the entities here? Basically, you have the PCE, part of an SDN controller, the guy who computes the path. The guy who asks for path is the client. Who this could be? This could be again anything. It could be a device asking for a path. It could be an NMS. It could be an application. It could be anybody. Anybody who needs to know the path can ask for it. So that's basically the PCC. But most of the time, it's our router, which is the term that we use here. The protocol between these two entities is the protocol called PSAP, and it runs on TCP. Yeah. This you note that this is how old? It's 2004. So it's quite old, working group, pre-SDN working group. So this was we needed to do in general, because we saw that when you let a node compute this thing, it was problem. First, he has to be aware of the whole map. He needs to be made aware of any changes in the network at all the time, and that node has to have the computational power to do that. But the biggest change was he does not know everything in the network, right? He has a limited view of the network. Plus, he has limited capacity. So to offload that, this thing came into picture. The first RFC got published in 2006, 4655, quite old, and after that, multiple 38 more RFCs have been published in this thing.
So I was just curious to know what was the reason for putting this on top of TCP?
On TCP. Because the idea here, first thing was that the idea was that PC could be anywhere. It could be something next hop, like maybe a node next to me performing this function. It could be out there in the server. It could be an NMS. TCP made a lot of sense. And having that session and all the reliability part of the PCE, and it is at the end a request reply mechanism. And request reply, TCP makes so much more sense than like if I'm just flooding the information or if I'm letting everybody know. No, I'm directing it to a particular PC. I know who has this computational power, and I'm expecting a reply only from him. So TCP made a lot of sense.
They don't mind having this connection-oriented thing. It's
No.
actually good for them.
Yes, and actually
the session with them is actually good.
correct. And in the SDN world, and where we try to position PSAP, it made so much sense. Okay, so what some of the reasons I kind of told you guys as well, like why we started working on it. The main one at that time was multi-domain. Because the part that we were most worried about was, if this is the guy PCC, this is suppose an area or an AS, he only has view of this part of the network. He has no visibility into what's happening here. So what we used to do at that time was take a guess. Oh, maybe from this ASBR, I'm sure I will be able to reach. I cannot compute path here anyway, but I'll make sure that I give you the constraints in my network and then Ram Bharose. And because I can't do anything. So that was our biggest problem. That when, as a customer, if I have, as a service provider, if I have multiple AS, multiple area, I want to offer this service to a particular customer, charge him for some gold service, and if I can only guarantee this in one part of the network, and another, I'm like, oh, I can't. Or if I have to do some very weird logic that we used to do back then, do some configuration there, set up two different parts, somehow stitch them together, but super complicated. So we wanted to change that. Let us offload this to PC. So initially we started with one controller only. Maybe that controller has view of both the networks. Oh, my work is super easy. That can also work. But that's not the reality. I cannot have one single guy. So we can also use the same protocol across PCs so that they can work together between each other and help me compute paths. So this is different from the usual SDN use cases that you will see, but PC's original main reason was inter-domain and inter-layer also. Inter-layer, especially when you have an IP layer, optical layer, of course you will not be able to share information across this. Your PCs can't be the same. But if I want to satisfy my user request, I need to make sure that both IP layer and optical layer works in tandem. They cannot be completely disjoint, right? This plays quite a good role, that I can set up an interlayer path in such a way that both IP and my DWDM or whatever optical layer that I have works well, right? So let's just go through this quickly. Does not have enough computation power, so these nodes, we wanted to offload them the need to do computation, all these algorithms, as well as the big database that they need to maintain, that can be offloaded. And then this part, interdomain and interlayer, that we know that this node doesn't have that visibility, so how the hell he'll be able to compute? So we need to do something there. And then we wanted to do little better algorithms. Now what was happening is, like, you have different requirements, you want to do different algorithms, not just SPF or CSPF that I have. I want to do some more specialized algorithm. Can't do that in a distributed manner, right? I have to go and make a change. The same reason at SDN, that people used to say, oh, if I have a central guy making all the decision, if I want to change the algorithm, I need to just make the change at one place and I can just give that service out, this thing. But if I have to go and change in every device in my network, a huge problem. So that was true back in 2004 as well. So this is a quick history. I will not be going into detail of these things. I'll focus more on the new SDN part. But this is actually something to show that this was all happening before SDN even came into picture. The work was, first you have to specify a protocol. Anytime you do an ITF, come up with a new protocol, you have to write a big standard that how are these two nodes used to communicate, how will they know that the other person is alive, will you exchange some open message, what will be the keep alive like, how would you tell what capabilities I support, how would your request look, like when I have to request something, how would I say these are my endpoints, these are my constraints, give me a path. And when the other entity has computing a path, how would he return back? How would you say that I'm overloaded, I can't compute anymore? How would I say notification that path computation has failed? That's the gist of what IETF does. You standardize a protocol, that's what happened in basic PSEP, it's RFC 5440. But then the use cases came. So the first key use case, as I said, was interdomain, which was written in a particular procedure called BRPC, which is backward recursive path computation. That I somehow go to the last domain and start computing my path in the front using a mechanism called as BRPC. So this was how our distributed PCs in multiple domains work with each other to compute an end-to-end path. So that's the algorithm that this BRPC specified. Moment you talk multi-domain, the issues started happening. Oh, I don't want to leak paths from one domain to another. The other person can find so much information about my particular domain, so you have to do something. So we came up with a concept called as a path key, that maybe I will only talk about endpoints. I will give you what is the properties of this path, but I will hide all the details. You will not know what is my node, what is a link, but I'll tell you that, oh, if you pick this path from P1 to P2, these are the characteristics I will be able to provide. So when you signal the path and when you set up the path, give me back that key and I will know what path are you talking about, and I will make sure that path gets set up and you use that path. So that was the concept behind this confidentiality. Objective functions. Objective functions was that we talked about, oh, I want to have multiple algorithms. So this is a way to tell multiple algorithms. For this guy, I would like a minimum delay path. For that guy, I want to make sure that the cumulative bandwidth of all the paths that I'm set up is maximized or something like that. So you can think of various different use cases and all that come into picture. So this is how you tell what is the algorithm preference that I have that you need to use for this particular path. One of the key things that we do in traffic engineering is also protection. Because if you are not able to do that, then you won't be as good as the best effort thing that we were talking about. If I'm giving a customer a gold service, I need to give him, yes, you will see 99.999 failure rate. Like, I will take care of all the cases. So usually what we do is we set up protections, we set up two paths, one path is a backup, one path is a primary. So when you do that, you want your PC to be aware of it, that oh, I want two paths, I want one to be node disjoint or link disjoint or SRLG disjoint, like whatever, what kind of protection are you looking for? And the PCE, while computing, takes care of that. So that's the protection path. Next, multicast. This was not just path computation, is not just from A to B, but could be to calculate a multicast tree, especially for MVPN kind of use cases. That I have this particular video server, it needs to go to all these subscribers. Let's find a right set of P2MP tree that will be able to compute that. So that's where the P2MP comes in picture. Then we talked about this one, which is a BRPC model. There were some issues with this one, that oh, it still needed some way for me to tell, because I don't have the visibility of how to reach the destination domain, and I need to do still some configuration, some information need to be provided. It was an issue. So we thought, instead of having interdomain, like if I go back in this way, that like these two PC as peer-to-peer to each other, what if we have a hierarchy of PC? So you have this as a child, and then imagine there is a parent here who doesn't know internal details, but at least knows how all the domains are interconnected to each other, and then he can provide you, like you don't have to worry where the other domain is. In this case, what used to happen was we have to tell, when we were doing path computation, we have to provide some information. By the way, this destination domain you will find if you cross this domain and then this domain. Because otherwise, how would this guy figure it out? He doesn't know. He only knows which are the PCs that are directly connected to him. But if you have a parent, that guy can take care of it. So that's where the HPC came in. Next, this was not just for MPLS-TE, it was also applicable for GMPLS. So optical people started using it. And in fact, optical people had much more better requirement for doing path computation, because their traffic engineering requirements are much more strict than IP. So they had a very good use case to do PCEP via GMPLS. Next was interlayer. We talked about it, that you have IP plus optical. The same protocol works for IP, the same protocol works with protocol. You could have two PCs communicating with each other across layers to make sure that the interlayer path setup is perfect. This was actually never done before this. Before this, the two networks were always independent to each other, and it was always a management interface. Somebody from IP guy used to pick up a phone, talk to his transmission guy, oh bhaiya, increase something, something is not working, and let's start the process order and do the whole management thing that needs to, where I can ask you to increase the bandwidth now because something is going wrong. But here we wanted to automate that within the protocol itself, that let there be two entities, let them work this out among each other and make sure that the interlayer path setup is fine. So this is just a quick history. This I think would have taken around 10 years from 2004 to wherever this thing was, and then the SDN part start coming in. All this time, PCE was just doing path computation. And what we mean by that was, it was stateless. You could request a path, it will compute and return back the path and forget about it. It was just a guy who was doing computation. It was not a controller. Once he has given a path, he could never go back and ask you, oh, maybe I have a better information now, let me send it to you, because that context was completely gone. So that's why it was stateless. It could do computation, but it forgot what computation it did, who asked for that computation, what the result that I gave him. It was just a guy who was doing computation, right? So the first thing that we wanted to do was make it stateful. Have I covered everything here? Yes, sure. So let's make it stateful. So what will make it stateful? The idea that this PCE, along with maintaining the network graph, will always remember what all paths are currently set up in the network and continue to monitor them, that how those paths are working. So it is stateful. It will remember everything that it has computed before. It will remember how it is working. It will remember when it has gone down, this thing. So now the question comes, if we have that information, what can we do with this, right? So that's where you start thinking that all the SDN things that we want to do, like, oh, I learned something quickly. Oh, this path is impacting this path. Let me go and change because I have the control to ask for that change. And all the good things of SDN, the programmability part, start coming into play. So I'll not jump the gun, let me cover the whole story. So the first thing is that computed paths are stored, right? So that was, if it is just the computed path are stored, then it is just passive. In the sense, I will be aware of everything, but I will still respond by request and reply. You still request me, I can still find out that at this time, by the way, these all other paths are existing in the network. I can use that information to give you a better path because I can understand the association between various different things that exist in the network. So I can do better path computation, but I'm still not SDN because I'm still relying on node to ask me for something. Active changes that. Active stateful PCE would basically mean that a node will give up control over his path to a PCE with the action that we call delegation. So basically the node, instead of asking give me the best path, says I have a requirement for this path, these are the constraints, I give you full control. So now you compute the path, you ask me, tell me what path I need to set up, and then at any moment in future, if you want to change the path because you know something better now, you know something has gone down and I can re-optimize something, or there is something impact, you have the capability of coming back to me and tell me, by the way, the path that I gave you earlier, change that, I have something better for you. That's made it basically active. So now because of this active, what I could do was I could go and change things, which was not possible before. Earlier PC, you don't even remember what I told him. When I remember that I've told him what, but still I had no capability, like the node had full control. I had to wait for node to ask me again. And when he asks me again, I can give him a better path. But now he has active control, so I give up all the control of this particular tunnel or this particular path to a particular controller, and the controller takes care of it throughout the lifetime. Right? So that's where the active part comes in. And now we were able to re-optimize multiple paths together, and that was the key. So what used to happen earlier was everything was getting controlled by order of path computation. So the first guy who asked me something maybe gets the best thing. Next guy who I've already given him, I can't change anything now. Next path I have to set up based on what's free now. But if I knew that, oh, by the way, this is all the paths that needs to be set up in the network, I can do better algorithm where fair share is happening and overall the network is optimized rather than just one path is optimized. Earlier I could only compute best path now. Now I can compute best path for all the paths together. And that's where the PCE comes in. And note that IETF never standardizes that. So that's a research problem. That how do you make this guy to do this path computation in the most effective way to reduce the churn in your network, to increase the overall utilization? That's all not a part of IETF. That's as a vendor, as a guy who writes the controller code, we have to research and come up with good ways. In the IETF, we only worry about how do I communicate between these two endpoints and report the status, report the need via the protocol, right? But we wanted this to be standardized because any node, any controller needs to work to make this happen. Okay. Another thing that was still missing was the node was still involved. Like you had to go, the node has to delegate control to PC, right? The node has to say, I know that I have to set up this path and I want you to take control over it. But in SDN world, we want controller to do everything, including initial creation of a path or initial creation of a tunnel at the node itself. So that's what the thing which was missing that we kind of added, which was called as a PC initiated path. So node is kind of taken out of the picture completely. Initially you talk to the PC decides I need to set up a path, it directly talks to the node, I would like you to create a path and this is the path. So everything is from SBI way, from controller to the device. So that's what the PC does. And why this was needed? Because again, what was happening was, before this, we used to use a CLI, or we used to use an NMS netconf message from the controller to talk to the device so that device can trigger something to the controller. and there was this random round trip that was happening. That from the same controller, via netconf, you talk to the device then talks via PSEP to this, so we kind of removed that. That you only give one request to the controller via PSEP takes care of everything. And all the previous things of delegation and all is default in this way. So that's the PC initiated mechanism, right? And why in the SDN world this was kind of important? Usually customer never asks for set up a path. It says I want a service. It will say, for instance, I would like this enterprise, like if I work for Huawei, it will say, I would like my Bangalore Whitefield office to be connected to my Delhi Gurgaon office with this kind of requirement. So he's talking in terms of a particular service, right? So for which we would use L2 VPN, L3 VPN, VPLS, eVPN, whichever VPN service I would need. And based on that needs requirement, I would need to traffic engineering the path, right? So ideally in our world, all these things works together. And this part, the tunnel creation part is kind of hidden to the customer. Customer doesn't care. It's just aware about the service. And this is hidden part that we automatically create based on the service requirement, right? And that's why this plays quite a big role. That the requirement comes from top. I want a service. We know how we need to communicate to the edge nodes to create those services. But at the same time, we also create the path and configure that path so that that service can use this particular path for the service, right? So that's the PC initiative. Any questions so far? No. So next thing, are people aware of segment routing? Segment routing? Not that much. Some people are. But I will give a very small introduction. So segment routing, or basically it's called source routing. The concept here was that I would like to reduce the state in my network. So for instance, before this thing, the other choices was, we used to do something called as a RSVPT signaling. So even when we talk about this PC initiated path, like when the head node gets the path, it uses the RSVPT protocol to talk along the nodes to make sure that this path is established, and whatever is the bandwidth requirement and the QoS requirement that I'm setting is known to all the nodes. So basically every node along this path has to maintain the state that there is a tunnel created from A to B with these characteristics, and it is passing through this path. So there's all this state even on the intermediate node of every path that is going through you. You need to be aware of it. Segment routing said, what if I move that information out of the network and into the packet itself? So what happens is, basically we are saying, what if when I look at the packet has all the information that tells me end to end how I need to go. Just think of this in the previous world. Previous world, what used to happen was, we have to do a signaling first to set up the path. When the signaling is happening, your label exchange is setting up that you need to say, for this tunnel, use this label to reach to me. This guy will give another label, so that at the head end you push, then you swap, pop, the basic MPLS, path forwarding kind of thing. So what your label used to tell, only used to tell how to go to the next hop. And then it doesn't know. It's the job of the next guy to figure out, oh, if I receive this label, that means this is for this tunnel, and the out interface needs to be this guy. So all that state used to be there. Internally, your packet used to only give you the information how to reach to the next guy. We said, what if we put enough information in the packet itself, so that you will have the full path in the packet, not in the network. So basically what happens in this case, these guys do not know what are all the tunnels in the system, but they all know that a particular label means I need to reach this particular guy. So it's no longer, the label here did not used to specify for this tunnel use this label to reach the next hop. It used to say, if I'm a destination, maybe I'm this guy, and if you need me to receive the packet, make sure to use this label 1923. And everybody in the network floods that information and avails of it. So difference between RSVP was, along the path you are exchanging labels. Here you exchange labels via IGP itself. So you say, during IGP flooding, if you need to reach me, use this segment routing label or node label, or if you want me to send traffic on this particular link, make sure to use this label. So this information is now flooding in the IGP itself, and then we create a label stack. Earlier it was just one label. In the path, we used to say one label is my tunnel label. So now you have a stack of labels, and that stack of labels basically say, the first guy that I need to go to is this guy, then you go to this guy, then you go to this guy, and go away, right? So that was the beauty of segment routing. And another thing that they did was that you don't have to worry about end-to-end path per se. You can, since the node, when you use a node label, you're basically saying, I want to reach this guy, and the path that you use to reach this guy is basically whatever is the best path to reach him, right? So you can just put two labels. And if you put two labels, it will be basically, suppose I have a path A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. I put the label for H because I need to tell, of course you need to reach H, and I put B in between. So basically that means go to B first as a best effort. I don't have to tell you how to reach B. I expect you to know that already. You have IGP running, you know what is the best path. I'm just telling you, go to B first. So once you have reached B, you look at the packet again. Oh, the next guy is H. Then you say, I need to go to the H, and using the whatever is the best path computed to H. That's the beauty of this. But in RSVPT world, what we used to do was you have to compute the whole path. There was no second guessing. You have to tell everything. Use this interface, this is your out interface, this thing, that thing, and the whole path needs to be set up. If there is a change in a path, suppose the best path has changed between, say, the B to H. I need to set up a new path in RSVPT and do signaling all over again, get brand new labels. In SR case, your label stack itself didn't change. It is still saying, go to the best path to B and then best path to H. If the best path to B to H change, nothing changes. Your labels remain the same. Your source node doesn't even need to know. So you reduce a lot of complexity at the time of changing of paths as well. So those were some of the advantages of segment routing. But the idea was that this is kind of without PCE. What's the use of it? The idea was that there should be a central guy who can create this label stack in a creative ways to make this happen. So that's where the SR and PCE came into picture. That it's not just for RSVPT, MPLS path, the PCE can compute segment routing paths as well. And it can create this label stack in a creative way. One of the key requirements also is make sure that the label stack is as small as possible. Because the moment you increase the label stack, you have issues with the hardware, issues with the MTU, issues with the capability of the device. So the controller plays that important role as well. That how I can be creative without impacting, that I use the least amount of labels to come up with this. Maybe I can break a path somewhere, create something what they have called as a binding SID to maybe break the right way, hide the information, do lots of creative things like they have flex algo also. So what is a flex algo? Initially we talked about go to the best path from B to H. A single label stack can do that. So those are some of the advantages of segment routing. I know it might be a little confusing if you are hearing it for the first time because it kind of breaks the way that we imagine the networks to be worked. But this now has already seen some deployments. It still has issues. The main issue is the stack size. That usually any of our existing, though this does not change MPLS, it is still following MPLS label stack, but number of labels that you can put to stack are quite limited because of the way the router's forwarding has been designed. So we have to be very creative. That's why all these creative solutions came in, that how we can reduce the label stack to make that happen. One of the key things that I also have in segment routing is, it's not just for MPLS, it is also for IPv6 data plane. So on IPv6, they came up with, they had to change the forwarding a little bit, like data packet has to change. They can't put a stack of IPv6 address, that's not allowed according to the IPv6 header, right? So what they had to come up, they came up with some IPv6 header extension, which is called SRH, and where they store the list of IPv6 addresses that let the same thing happen that you see in MPLS also works in IPv6 as well. So this is nothing but the IPv6 part. It's called SRv6. So now for the first time with this, path computation element and TCAP kind of moved away from just doing MPLS and MPLS-TE. So far we were completely based on traffic engineering, pure paths. With SRv6, we are claiming that we can now work for IPv6. And why I wanted to specifically talk about this. This opens up that PCE can now be used, like even in the first presentation during the 6th talk, she had in her slide PCE, though that extension doesn't exist right now. Nobody is using it, but it's a possibility that you could use this concept for any time you need to communicate between nodes to device and there is some path computation logic required. PCE can play this role, and already with SRv6 that door is already open. The concept is kind of same. Here it looks like a label stack, but it's not really a label stack. As you know, IPv6 header stack, it's the list of SRH that you will put inside your IPv6 header. So this is a big topic in itself, but I just wanted to make you guys aware of it. Now, what started happening as well was, what are the interesting things that we could start doing with stateful PCE? The first thing was association. So what this association concept is, we wanted to know what is the relationship between paths. For instance, all the paths that belong to one particular service, I want to know about them. Which path is acting as a protection for which path? I want to know about that. I want to know when there is a requirement that these two paths must be diverse to each other. I want to know about it, right? So that's nothing but a generic way to maintain these associations between these paths. And what do we do with this association? We use them in our intelligent path computation that we are writing. So the idea is that we want to be better than what we currently do. Before this, our algorithm was straightforward. It was something called as a CSPF, which is a modified SPF algorithm called constraint shortest path first. Given our network graph, given these destination and source, I could find you the best path meeting these constraints. In the SDN world and the stateful PCE world, we want to go beyond that. And we want to say, I just don't want to find the best path for this guy. I want to see what is the relationship of this guy with the other guys in the network, and how holistically I can do optimization together, which is a very interesting research algorithmic problem. We don't have good results right now. If something works for one case, it breaks the other cases. So there's a lot of good things that we have been doing within our company, outside as well. So especially here, if people are interested in the algorithmic part, these things are quite important. And this is your research internally, and you can use PSAP only as a way for communication and do whatever you want to do internally of how you come up with those good paths, and then publish results and say, look how we are better than or worse than before. So algorithmic wise, this is still a lot of good work going on there. Now, the same thing which was possible with stateless, we wanted to make sure that it worked for stateful as well. So your GMPLS, your multicast, your interdomain, your hierarchy, all those things started coming in. Some of this are from the old, but the two other things are something new that we started focusing only in the stateful. The next one was auto bandwidth. Auto bandwidth is basically when I don't know what bandwidth I actually need. Like usually what happens is when we used to do this traffic engineering, we used to just go by like, what is the worst, like within this office at a peak time, what is my requirement? Okay, it's 30 GB, give me a 30 GB path. It's not being used in the night time, it's not being used in some other time, it's not being used on weekends, but okay, I can't change these things, I need to give you a value, so I'm going to give you a value on the most requirement that I have, which is wasteful. So the auto bandwidth concept was that I also monitor those paths and change the requirement of the bandwidth that needs to be allocated for those paths based on what is being actually going on in the network. Again, controller can play a very interesting role when you do auto bandwidth. A lot of monitoring needs to happen on the device. Lots of reporting needs to happen. So here, you could use PSAP, or also you can use some new telemetry work that's been happening, like people are using gRPC and other mechanisms to report a lot of things from their devices. But the PC can still play a role in doing some computation. The next one was scheduling, which is again sort of an SDN management concept that right now I just set up a path. That's my this thing. But what if I add set up a path at this time and tear down the path at this time, and set up a path at this frequency? I only need this path from this to this, like maybe I have a backup solution and I know that I do a backup at this time, so only at the time when I initiate the backup, let me create a path for it and only during that time there is a reservation for that path, and it's teared down later on. So all the interesting central controller thing are kind of put in the PCE as well. So let's try to compare. This is the old diagram of, like, from ONF or something, where we used to say that, oh, this is the three things that you have in SDN. You have your infrastructure layer, you have the controller, and then you have your applications on top. Basically, what is happening is in PCEP world, it's kind of the same. This is your infrastructure, this is your controller, and all the abstractions and algorithms that we are developing over it, like things that I talked about, this association and scheduling, those are nothing but applications over this. And this is also SDN, without saying that it's a complete separation of control plane and data plane, right? So that's how it is still, the concept of SDN is there, but the protocol use is different, and it's not dumb devices down there, they are intelligent devices. So, the first claim that we kind of made in the PCE working group in IETF was that PCEP can be considered as the earliest SDN SBI protocol was, right? Idea is, but the main thing here is that PCE is not fully functional SDN controller. We can't say that. PCE is a key component of an SDN controller. Inside the controller, the guy who can compute the path, who monitors the path, who re-optimizes the path, and who looks at the relationship between these things, that small component within your controller is the PCE. And the protocol that we have, PCEP, can be used. But some people don't like to use this protocol. Some people want to use netconf or restconf. They can still use it. Your entity doesn't go away. Somebody has to still do the path computation. The protocol is just a way to reach it. So even if the guys who are not excited about PCEP should still be excited about PCE, because that still is a key part of any SDN controller. And another main thing was this part that I kind of covered, that we don't have to worry about the full control plane and forwarding plane separation, right? And basically segment routing, SRv6, all of those things have close relationship with SDN as well, and that's applicable here. So, but what are the advantages that you could have if you use PCEP as a SBI protocol, right? So, if you already are using PCEP, it makes a lot of sense. Oh yes, I'm already using PCEP. I can, of course, enhance PCEP to also support this thing. I don't have to introduce something new, right? That's option number one. In some networks, we want, for instance, things like interlayer, where you have IP plus optical, and you are used to using PCEP. Again, this made a lot of sense, that you did not have any other protocol to use. If I want to introduce OpenFlow to do things like these, OpenFlow is not good for some of the things that we are doing here. So using OpenFlow made no sense. Like introducing a new protocol that is OpenFlow and asking them to do something like request reply plus the pure breaking down things that it already doesn't make sense, right? So other thing was people thought maybe we can enhance BGP, which work is actually going on. Many people are enhancing BGP in these cases as well. So there is a little bit of tussle within the IETF also. What is the ideal protocol to use? And IETF will never do that. IETF would say that I will give you multiple options and let each operator pick what makes sense to them. That's why you will see OSPF also there, ISAS also there, both being standardized within the IETF context. So with PCEP, there is multiple history as well. Like telling an optical network guy to introduce BGP, it's a huge problem for him. He's not comfortable doing that. There's no use for him to do that, right? In a data center guy, a guy who's already running BGP would like to use BGP more. So that's why the multiple functionality of the same thing you might find in multiple protocols as well. So one of the key things that we did was, we in fact said that whatever the things which might be missing from a pure SDN SBI solution, let's make sure that that's also in scope of PCEP, so that we can make PCE and PCEP as a true SBI in an SDN controller environment. So what was the thing that was missing? PCEP only worried about talking to the head ends so far. And it either used to use segment routing where all the information is in the packet itself, or you used to use some signaling mechanism to signal things within the network. What OpenFlow does, it talks to all the nodes in your network. So when you compute a path, it goes and talks to each node, programs each of them without any signaling. So we said, why can't we do that with PCEP as well? It's just a protocol. You are providing, when you can provide an information to head node, which is in fact a lot more information, here it is a subset of that information. So in fact, you already have the capability. It was just that we were not using that capability. So you're not breaking the protocol in any way. If you can program the head node, you can basically program everyone, because head node has more information than a transit node. So it's a subset of the information now that you are telling. But what needs to happen is your protocol must scale now. If your protocol was only talking to like the edge nodes before, now it's your implementation job to make sure that this guy has capability to talk to multiple guys and does not break. But that's not how the part of ITF. ITF doesn't do system engineering, right? It doesn't tell how you write the code and how do you do this. Within the protocol, the capability is there. So if you can experiment and make sure that your controllers can handle this, this will work. Plus at the same time, you can always have multiple controllers. One can be backup to each other. You can have a confederacy between multiple controllers. This is very common in any of the SDN controller implementations as well. You have a clustering mechanism, etc. We know that in SDN world also, one node can't handle a lot of things, so you break things down. You divide. All those things are applicable in PCEP as well. It simply works. So what we did was, we called this new thing as PCCC, which is PC as a central controller. So this is also a working group document. The architecture is already an RFC. So there's an established work that yes, this should work. So we talked about the RFC here, and then a couple of protocols. So what we did here was, in the protocol, we kind of simplified this as a generic object called central controller instruction. In the normal case, the central controller instruction is nothing but your MPLS label. It's simply saying, if you receive this label, this is what you need to do. That's it. So if you were doing, say, a basic path setup, I need to talk to the head node, simply tell him that for this path, you must push this label. On the other node, we say, if you receive this label, swap it with this label, receive this label, swap, and then basically pop. So all the instruction of an MPLS path that earlier was being done by RSVPTE, no need for RSVPTE, the PC directly asked each of the device to program their LFIP just like an OpenFlow kind of protocol. But we did not still ask them to be dumb. We still want them to be intelligent in the sense that they could do switching, for instance. That if something goes wrong, so we will put instructions there that when this path, if you run a BFD and a particular link is failing, this is how you switch, and this is what you need to do. All that information also we could put here. But they need to be specifically intelligent for the segment routing case. So as we were talking about in segment routing case, what used to happen was, the node used to say, if you need to reach me, this is the label, and you need to flood that label to everyone, right? But what was the problem? That you need to particularly go and configure on each of the device in your network a unique label or a unique index, and then that flooding used to happen. So there was a lot of configuration that came in segment routing. This is not configuration that is happening per part, but this is the configuration that is happening at the infrastructure level. Just like IP address, you need to go to a device, give him a unique IP address, and then gets flooded. So here, along with IP address, you had to put, oh, this is my segment routing label, for this algorithm, this is what I'm configuring, make sure that you flood it. With PCCC, what we wanted to do was sort of like zero touch, that you bring in the network, it tell him this is the controller, let the controller assign this to you, so that any of the configuration mistakes, things popping out, popping in, goes away. And some of the issues with segment routing, extra configuration, we took away via this PCCC as well. So there is a PCCC for segment routing and the basic PCCC. Further, we also did for multicast, which is pretty straightforward, it doesn't change as much. The only difference is that one of the instruction here would be that once you receive this label A, you duplicate that label, or let's talk about B instead. So once you receive the label B, you must duplicate the packet, replicate the packet, and send on interface N5 with D and N4 with C. That instruction can also be sent by PC, and if you are replication capable, that's the only difference in multicast. This thing simply works out of the box. So this is still a very early work. It's not yet adopted yet, but this is stateful P2MP, which is already there. The PCCC for P2MP is something new. Similarly, we have PCCC for SRv6, which works in the sort of similar way as SR. Okay, I have 5 minutes. I think I can finish. Next, we have FlowSpec. So FlowSpec is very interesting. The idea here was like, oh, I set up the path, but I need to also figure out what data flows on this path. That's nothing but what a flow specification does. And if people who are aware of BGP, BGP is a well-established BGP flow spec mechanism. But with PCEP, again, what we wanted to do was, our aim here was with PCEP, that can PCEP be a full-fledged SBI for my central controller environment, where I would want to avoid as much as using within the same protocol. Like I set up the path via this, then go to netconf to do something else, then go to BGP to do something else. The complexity of your controller and your device is too high with this way. So some of the advantages of SDN you are missing out because you are not able to reduce the complexity. So with this simple mechanism, we were saying, oh, what if we also move the functionality of FlowSpec, where basically I've set up the path, but I can also give the characteristics of data. Then make sure any packet whose destination is this and has this QoS bit sets, and on this port number, the data flows on this particular path. That's nothing but FlowSpec. So it had some very interesting way to encode this information in the packet and all. That's why these things are there, but you don't worry about it. The concept is, I need to also identify, after I've set up the path, what data to flow on that path, right? That's where this thing. And most of the other cases are basically VPN cases, where you don't have to worry about it because VPN takes care of it. So, for instance, if you are aware of L3 VPN or L2 VPN, usually what happens is you have a particular interface that's binded to a particular VPN, and any packet that receives on this thing, you consider this as a VPN packet, put the VPN label, put the tunnel label. You don't have to worry about FlowSpec there because your VPN things takes care of it. This is for non-VPN use cases mostly, where I've set up a tunnel and I would like to traffic engineering what data flows on this tunnel. So traffic engineering, one of the key part of traffic engineering is traffic classification as well. And this is your traffic classification part. In service function chaining, etc., again, this plays a very key role. You need to say what kind of traffic needs to flow on which chain, which needs to go through, maybe it's an external traffic, so it must go through firewall, this, that, rate limiting this. Oh, it's an internal traffic, it can only bypass something and do this. So all that role PCEP can also play. Next set of thing that we were working was, we will never have one controller in the network, right? That's not possible. Our networks are vast, and we would like these path computation thing to work in an inter-domain environment where you have multiple domains working together to achieve something. So in IETF, we started working on something called as ACTN. Basic concept here is, we wanted a way to say how multiple controllers in a multi-domain, multi-layered network work with each other, and how as a customer I can reach these set of controllers to tell them this is my requirement and make sure that you meet this requirement, right? So this was more from the SDN world, dealing with first how as a customer I pass this on, and how between these controllers you coordinate with each other via the techniques of abstraction, because of course if you share all the information, it's not scalable. You need to abstract, hide information, but also how do you control things in between, right? So this thing was done in a working group called as TEAS, which is Traffic Engineering Working Group. That's why it's kind of outside. But we kind of said that since from the start, PCEP is a protocol that was used from PCE to PCE, along with PCC to PC. If you remember the BRPC thing that I showed at the first, where you had two PCs talking to each other, communicating with each other to compute end-to-end path. So even in this world, the PC can play a very important role as a way of communicating between the controllers, not just from controller to device. which is something that you would see that other SBI protocols don't talk that much about. They focus on, I'm a controller, let me go talk to the device as well. So I'll move on a little bit and talk about some of the PCEP things that were well applicable in ACTN as well. So what are the things? We talked about HPC, which is a hierarchy of PC. What if all the PCs are stateful? That's nothing but stateful HPC. That's a very key thing that can be used across controllers as well, which is in the ACTN context. We talked about association, that once I set up multiple paths, I want to be aware of the associations. So the same association can be used in ACTN as well. And this was a new thing that we developed, which I have in the other slides as well, which is PCEP LS. So what if I also use PCEP as a way to learn my topology, especially in the PCCC world? If I have a protocol that is anyway going and talking to each of the devices, I can simply learn the topology directly from them. I don't have to run a third protocol, which was my current thing. Like usually you run OSPF in your network, then you use BGP LS or some other mechanism to export that back to the controller. So 3 protocols are coming into picture. Again, the whole process that we have been moving with PC and SDN is how we can simplify, and can we use this one protocol to achieve almost all your requirements, so that just by using PCEP you can go and deploy SDN in your traffic engineering networks. So this is stateful HPC. Basically you have multiple domains and you have these child PCs, and on top you have a parent PC. The mechanism that they need to work with each other to set up end-to-end path. That's nothing but stateful HPC. The concept that is also used in ACTN. So ACTN was only an architecture. It used to say, if you have something on top and something here, what are the information that needs to flow on this interface? What are the security considerations that you need to worry about? What are the things that you need to worry about? It didn't talk about protocol. PCEP is the place where we say, what if we use PCEP as a base for this protocol? This is how we will achieve it. Your other choices are, you can use gRPC, netconf, resconf, whatever. Other things are also possible, right? So ACTN was architecture, this is a solution. We talked about PCEP LS. So one of the key reasons for us to do PCEP LS was actually PCCC. That if you have this new interface that is going from devices to from the controller to device, it can simply be used to also learn, oh, by the way, I'm a router A and I'm connected to these 3 interfaces and these are my neighbors. If every guy gives this information to the controller builds the topology immediately. If there is a change, if one interface goes down, no flooding, that guy is directly reporting that information there, right? So it becomes very, very useful and a direct mechanism to learn things rather than via flooding, via first IGP needs to converge, then BGP LS will transfer. So all that thing you are removing via this PCEP LS. This is not yet standard. There is a lot of issues in ITF. People are not happy about it because they are saying that, oh, use BGP LS, so let's modify. Whatever issues that you have with BGP LS, let's go and fix it there. Don't add new protocols. So this whole tussle is going on. Nothing in ITF is straightforward. So, but that's the fun of it. Okay, one of the key things that we had to do with SDN is we can't just use MD5 that we had in our original protocol in 2008 that we wrote. And we know that like MD5 has whatever issues, so that doesn't going to work. So we wrote a new RFC which was published, that how we can build PCEP over TLS. And if you want to use PCEP in an SDN environment from controller to controller, you have to have more security than what you had before. So luckily that got done with this RFC as well. And I think I'm at the end. So this is the PC working group, and some of the working group work that we have been currently doing. Most of the work is on stateful. As you can see, most things are happening on the stateful side. There's some PCCC, some interdomain. This is the things that I was talking about, hierarchy of stateful HPC, etc. Segment routing and optical, right? So far around 41 RFCs are there, more working group, lots of individual IDs. So since the work has been quite old, but still a lot of work is happening. So most of the things that I talked about in the last half, these are all individual documents. Some are working group documents, some are individual documents. So still a lot of interesting things are happening here. So if this interests you, go and join the PC working group, and I'm here. I can always help you if you need something. So here you have a chair right in India. So use this opportunity and let me know if I can be of any help to you guys. Thank you.